Knows who we are. We are Elia and Mike with Utter Football 2018. Mate, what a World Cup.
Yeah, it's good.
It's fantastic,
Enjoyable.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I tell you what, I think it's been one of the... it's been pretty special. It's good to see the... well, you're not going to like it, I know, but it's good to see the English doing well this year, mate, for a change.
No, I don't mind the English. I've got no problem with them.
Oh, yeah, I thought you weren't an English fan, mate, as far as the way they play football and that, so...
No, they're all right. They did well today anyway. They played... Panama was sort of fouling away, hacking, they sort of got a bit of a lesson in the end about, the English just kept at what they were doing and got some good goals, I thought. Yeah, and Lingard got a good one.
Yeah, well, he did, didn't he? Yeah,
yeah. He's come along well with under Mourinho, I thought. I mean, he was coming along with Van Gaal as well, and then he's sort of been given a good chance with Mourinho, and he's taken it, so which is good to see.
Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. What about Harry Kane, mate? Harry Kane, he's very keen, isn't he? 4 goals. He scored 4 goals, hasn't he? First hat-trick since... What, Jeff Hurst?
He's got 5. He's got 5 altogether.
He's got 5 altogether now.
He got 2 in the first game, 3 today, yeah. Well, the third one was funny because it was Loftus-Cheek who took the shot and it hit his heel and looped over the keeper. Yeah. So it's like when you're in form, anything goes in. He didn't even know Kane. It hit him in the back of the heel. He wasn't even facing the ball.
Is that right?
Yeah.
He scores for fun, though, doesn't he, mate? Pretty fortunate. Well, they must be thanking his fitness because he had a few injuries during the season, and he's obviously done well for Spurs, but he really steps up when he's got that captain's armband on for the national team as well. And we'll chat more about that later. We've got David Choate coming in. Oh, he's going to be on the phone with us at about 1:15. We're going to talk about because it won't go away, mate, and that's just the debacle. What is at NZ football at the moment, and I know that it gets to the stage where you sort of think, oh, I don't want to talk about it anymore, but, what are your thoughts, mate? We've got to make changes, don't we, surely? It's got to the stage where we just have to make changes.
Yeah, well, I suppose they're in that position that a lot of organisations get into where they've hired a person and then, really it's their fault that the person's there and then, so they're not just going to turn around and sack him, even though everyone would probably like that. They have to sort of, go through the motions of doing things in the sort of corporate manner that they operate. So yeah, that's sort of slow boat to China type thing, and eventually you think he'd be down the road, but they're not going to just cut him loose because I don't know, they have all these sort of lawyers and carry on and things like that. But
which is frustrating because the purists like ourselves, we want to just see results, mate, and playing good football and having the ship sort of righted in the right direction, and sailing in the right direction, and it just once again it just seems to have been going backwards, hasn't it? I mean, the women's game was real positive over the last sort of 5-10 years in New Zealand, and that's just gone by the wayside, unfortunately, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, something has to happen, and it will, you think. So it'll just be a matter of when they sort it out. And there's enough people who are annoyed. And, if you've got the whole teams, thinking about not playing, and one of the most prominent players of the last few years is pulled out because she doesn't like the mentality of the coach or how the things run, then you've got to look at it and go, hang on, we need to fix this. And you think they could fix it a bit faster than they have, or come out and say something and say, look, sorry, we made a mistake or something. But, are they going to do that? Probably not.
No, I don't think they will. I think it's a matter of... it just stinks to me that instead of people holding up their hand and say we got it wrong, they're all trying to duck and dive and hide and just basically take the... it's just like... I feel it's like people trying to shirk responsibility, and like you said earlier, mate, if these people employed these people to do a job and they're not doing that job, so they've got to have the balls to stand up there and make those changes.
Yeah, totally.
But there's repercussions involved when you do that. So anyway, New Zealand football is a bit of a debacle. We'll have a chat with Chody when he comes on. But Mate, I know you're going to hate me for this, but I'm going to play a song, and this is a song I've loved for years, and I think it must have been from about 1990 or something. It was the England World Cup song by New Water, so here we go.
Slow or fast, but you must get to the line.
Might start at the start though, I think.
Well, some of the crowd are on the pitch. They think it's all over, but it is now.
Express yourself, create the space. You know you can win, don't give up the chase. Beat the man, take him on. You never give up, it's one-on-one. Express yourself, it's one-on-one. Express yourself, it's one-on-one. Express yourself, you can't be wrong. When something's good, it's never gone. Love's got the world in motion, and I know what we can do. Love's got the world in motion, and I can't believe it's true. Now is the time, let everyone see. You never give up, that's how it should be. Don't get caught, make your own play. Express yourself, don't give it away. Express yourself, it's one-on-one. Express yourself, it's one-on-one. Express yourself, it can't be wrong. When something's good, it's never gone. Love's got the world in motion, and I know what we can do. Love's got the world in motion, and I can't believe it's true. Love's got the world in motion, and I know what we can do. Love's got the world in motion, and I can't believe it's true.
We want goals. Against Mexico, they got one. A beauty scored by Bobby Charlton. We want goals.
You got to hold and give, but do it at the right time. You can be slow or fast, but you must get to the line. They'll always hit you and hurt you. Defend and attack. There's only one way to beat them. Get round the back. Catch me if you can, 'cause I'm the England man. And what you're looking at is the master plan. We ain't no hooligans. This ain't a football song. 3 lions on my chest. I know we can't go wrong.
Some of the crowd are on the pitch. They think it's all over, but it is now. It is now. But it is now.
Fantastic song. The world is in motion. 6 goals for England today. You can't get much better than that, can you, Elia?
Yeah, no, they definitely played well, and I mean, Panama aren't, were pretty sorry really. They weren't that good a side, and they were just resorted to fouling a lot. They did get a goal, though. Their goal scorer is the oldest goal scorer in World Cup history. I think 37 years old, I think he was. And, it was a nice moment for him. He came off the bench.
Yep.
And he said he was going to retire after the World Cup, so now he can retire with a World Cup goal to his name, which is
Nothing wrong with that, is there, mate?
Yeah, good on him, I say. And it wasn't a bad finish, actually. It was pretty poor defensively from England. They'll have to tighten that up. But, it was not a bad free kick. And, you know, and it sort of maybe took a little bit of the gloss off their win. But, you know, they got 6 goals. They were 5 up at half-time.
I know, mate.
So.
Hey, just for the purists out there, do you think the England players play better for the club or for the country?
Oh, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't think you can really say that, to be honest.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people asking me that question the last couple of days, and I've thought, well, I don't know. I've never really thought about it. You know,
they always play pretty well for their clubs because they play, you know, top clubs in England and other countries, mainly England actually. But and, you know, they've all been selected on merit for their play for their clubs.
Yep.
So, which is, you know, it's a first, I think, when you look at tournament selections over the past 5 years for them. There's been a lot of other teams, like the Germans sort of got into more selecting on merit with what's his name coaching? What's his name, the German coach?
Oh, yeah.
Lowe. Yeah. So Lowe took over from Klinsmann years ago. I mean, when did he take over? 2006 or 2008 or something?
I think it was 2008.
And he sort of remodeled that whole German setup, really, in some ways. I mean, they've always had good players and they've always selected the best players, but there's something about the way he's run it that's obviously, you know, led to them winning the World Cup. And you know, that game the other day they played was an interesting match. I watched that, and the Swedes are actually, I thought they were robbed in the first half. They should have had a penalty, and that would have really, you know, the Germans went in 1-0 down anyway, but if they had been 2-0 down, you'd say that they're probably out of the World Cup because they weren't going to, they wouldn't have turned that around.
And they didn't look flash at all, did they, mate? They looked lethargic and just...
Well, they looked good once they had to get that goal. Royce was they were lucky they had him back. He makes a big difference, you know.
Yep.
And, you know, and Cruz, that was a quality free kick, but... yeah, they do look. But then once again, the Germans went down to 10 men, and the Swedish were not even. They couldn't even get the ball off them.
Yeah.
Like, that's how good they are, you know. And maybe they need that extra pressure, and they needed it in that game, and now they'll probably turn a corner and have a good run.
I've seen the Germans very often when they're an awful team to go a goal down to.
Yeah,
because they'll just kill games, you know, and they'll take the ball and they'll keep the ball for large.
Yeah, a bit like the Italians do.
Oh, definitely. Exactly.
People don't like it, but I love it, eh? I love teams that can go 1-0 up and then they just stop the other team playing.
Yeah.
That's what the Uruguayans do. And so do the Portuguese to a certain degree.
Hey, we've got that call coming through now. Actually, let's see if this works here. Hello, is that Chody?
It is indeed.
Chody, it's Mike Utting here, mate, on Utter Football. And we've got Elia, my sidekick, who runs the show. Welcome.
Hey, man, how are you?
Yeah, good, Michael. Lovely to talk to you. Loving the World Cup and always happy to talk a bit of round ball.
Yeah. Well, Elia, he's been working with stuff. He's a reporter, but I reckon he's South American, mate. He's got a bit of Uruguayan blood in him. And he's got the long hair and he's got that tan skin, mate. He's either a Maori or he's been over in the tropics for far too long. But he's loving it as well, as we all are, mate. And that's what are you putting the World Cup down to that's making it so appealing and different from tournaments past?
A little bit unpredictable. The big teams aren't winning like we would expect. So the Brazils and that aren't quite firing. The big names aren't going that great. And there's some lesser nations doing well. I like the look of Belgium. I like the look of Croatia and even Russia, who I thought would go out in the early rounds, have kicked on and they look like they're going to go to the next round and even beyond. So it's been quite... surprising, I think, some of the results. All the games have been tight, Michael, so there's been no real blowouts apart from the one last night or this morning with England blowing out over Panama. Most of the games have been tight and lots of games have been won late on.
And before you came on here, David, I was having a chat to Elio and taking the mickey a bit, my mate, and I played an English song, you know, that New Order, World in Motion song from, I think, from 1996 or something, and it's actually quite refreshing seeing the English doing well for a change, isn't it?
Yeah, did right, Michael. You have to go back well beyond 1996 to when they last sort of were a really good side, but they've got no expectations on them, the Poms, and they've come out and they've scored goals and they've looked quite comfortable in both their wins. Can they win the thing? I don't know, but the longer they go in the tournament, the better for us. We love our English footballers, so it'll be entertainment aplenty. The thing that makes me laugh about the English, they went there with no expectations, but 2 wins in, they're all singing football's coming home, so we'll watch them in the knockout stages.
Sorry, you go.
Oh, the English fans are singing that all, they were singing that from the start anyway. They're always bloody a little bit.
How many Chelsea players in the England squad, David?
Mate, the only choice, actually, in the squad, Cahill's in there, I think that's it, isn't it? Cahill's not playing.
Yep.
They're playing without the big donkey at the back, but Chelsea have got players playing in every other country's national side, bar the English pretty much, Michael, as the Roman Abramovich era signals big money, and you don't usually spend big money on the local players.
No, granted. Who's your team for the World Cup, David? I mean, it's not to win it, but who are you picking to enjoy having a little bit of a sweepstake in the office with?
Well, a couple of things. I picked up Panama in the office sweepstakes, so that was the worst of the lot. Although there is a prize for the worst side at the World Cup, so I might pick that up. And the other one I picked up in the family sweepstake was Belgium, and I've been more than happy with Belgium. They've looked good. So that's not a bad pick. I like Hazard. If he can perform, they go good. Lukaku scores goal. De Bruyne is a good midfielder. They've Vertonghen at the back. They're not bad, are they? So
I think they're very good.
My little favourite side at the moment might be Belgium.
What do you think of the Mexicans, mate? Any of the South Americans sort of creeping in there?
Yeah, mate. Mexico have been really good to watch. Pacey, and they play a style of football that's always entertaining.
Yeah.
Actually, I loved Colombia this morning. Colombia looked pacey. Cuadrado out wide was fantastic. You've got James Rodriguez. So I enjoyed the Colombians. So of the South American sides, you'd have to say that the big name Brazil probably has been the most underwhelming.
Yeah. I mean, who did they drew with Switzerland first up, didn't they? It was
they just haven't fired, and Neymar has been sort of a little bit out of sorts and a little bit sort of emotionally unstable. If you like, he's not really.
Did you see the Costa Rica game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it. I didn't. I mean, Costa Rica were pretty negative, But I thought Neymar actually sorted himself out from the first game in that game. He sort of seemed to be have a bit more intent about him. And he was lucky to get that goal at the end, and that was Douglas Costa came on second half and really revved things up for them. But it was Firmino who won that header, and that was crucial for Coutinho getting that goal. But yeah, the Costa Ricans were just content to play for the draw, I think. But I thought the Brazilians did well to not give up in that match.
Yeah, well, don't rule them out. I know they're not firing, but a bit like the Germans who got out of jail late, those big teams will come good in the knockout stages. You just know that when the big games kick in, some of the big names will start performing. But at the moment, if you sort of went into the tournament thinking Neymar, Messi, Ronaldo, I'd say Ronaldo's got the nod on all of them in terms of who's performing in the early rounds.
Well, that brings us to Portugal, mate, and obviously they've started with the hiss and roar, haven't they, the Portuguese?
Yeah, that first game was the Spanish game, and I thought that was the game of the tournament so far. 3-3. It was exciting. It was a Saturday morning. It put me in my happy place with goals going in at either end and the lead changing hands. I thought Ronaldo was outstanding for a guy who's starting to mature in terms of his years in the game. He was electrically fast for a guy with older legs, playing one touch most of the time, but scoring goals for fun. I thought he was outstanding. But yeah, they're not a one-man side. They are a good balanced side. I don't know if they'll go all the way. The Spanish, who, if you look at their playing roster, they look fantastic on paper. They sacked their coach 2 days before the tournament. If they go all the way without sort of having a manager in place up until sort of 2 days before, it'll be a remarkable story.
Yeah, I think that the Spanish are a team that could do that. I think if you look at the abundance of talent they've got from the keeper, who obviously was poor against Portugal, but David De Gea. He to make a mistake like that, a goalkeeper, that would actually probably give him the biggest wake-up call for the rest of the tournament. And I, like many others, think he's probably the best keeper in the world. So I think they've got an abundance of talent, as I said, all over the park. Not having a guy calling the shots as such and just letting them get on with it might actually be the blessing in disguise.
Yeah, it would be a good story, wouldn't it, if the players pretty much manage themselves to a World Cup. In the end, Michael, you know this, in football, defences will probably win you the tournament.
Yeah,
so the
for
best
sure.
keeper, the best centre-back pairing, you'd have to say PK and Ramos. There's not many better going around than those guys.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
defensively, yeah, they look sound. So, yeah, you wouldn't bet against them.
No, you're right, mate. In Germany, though, do you think... I don't think the Germans, although they're good and they're always good, I just don't see it this year, mate. I just think they're not the Mercedes-Benz like they have been in the past for my ticket anyway.
Yeah, they leave themselves a bit open for me at the back. I think that's very un-German, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to go back-to-back to be champions, and that doesn't happen often. They got out of jail in the 95th minute. They were almost out of the tournament in that match.
Yeah.
But I just think with the Germans, again, when it gets tight, they know how to win. They know how to just squeak through. So you wouldn't rule them out. But no, I don't think they're the German side that was even there 4 years ago. I think they're a little bit looser defensively.
David, we're gonna talk football and World Cup football after you've got off the air with us. So we just want to have about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes having a chat to you about what is happening closer to home with with all this stuff here which is happening in New Zealand football, David. And we were talking earlier before you came on air about how if we look at the New Zealand women's setup for the last sort of 5-10 years, it's sort of something that the rest of the football fraternity in New Zealand's been able to take a hat off and say, look, we're getting it right with the women. But even now with that, we seem to be, stuffing it up. And we seem to have a real, well, to sum it up, David, I got asked yesterday after doing an interview on Radio Sport. They said, look, or a couple of days ago, they said, look, you probably won't get any more interviews with Andy Martin at NZ Football. And I actually came back with, to be honest with you, I don't want one. I don't trust in them. I don't believe where they're going, and I just don't believe what's coming out of their mouth. And they seem to be all over the show, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it is sad because at a time when we should be celebrating football with the World Cup and even in New Zealand we could be sort of spinning off the back of that with some positive stories, there aren't too many positives coming out of New Zealand football. And they say in some circles that the fish rots from the head down, and I think that's true of most organisations. There's something smelly in New Zealand football, and you've got to look at the top of the organisation first. I called that match for Radio Sport alongside Daniel McCarty for the Football Ferns, and I've never seen such anti-football played and when the opportunity was there in a non-competitive match. Remember, this isn't a World Cup qualifier that they had to win. It was a showcase opportunity for them. 7,000 people turned out to watch the women play.
Biggest crowd for a women's game, wasn't it?
Yeah, fantastic. And it was all set up to be a great night out. And I've never called a match of any description where I've seen a side not contribute as much. And it was clearly the coach's playbook that was being rolled out in front of us. It was really sad to see. Then you go on to hear about some of the stories behind the scenes that just are unacceptable. Then the inquiry comes out, and the CEO, where's he? He's off in Russia. He can't talk to you for 3 days because, I don't know, don't they have phones in Russia? I'm pretty sure they do. And to return and say he wasn't aware of anything, well, to be honest, I'm a few miles away from the action in terms of women's football, but I'd heard the stories going into that match well before we got to call the match on the night. So if Andy Martin hadn't heard about it, I mean, I find that very, very difficult to swallow.
It's not an excuse, is it? That's not one that sits with us Kiwis, is it, mate?
No, well, I think it is excuses, not knowing. Well, it's your job to know, so I think he's under all sorts of pressure, to be honest. But for me, the game is, and I felt particularly for the female players, the women who were involved are better than what they showed. For the last few years, they have been the shining light for New Zealand football. They've been competitive. They played Japan about 3 or 4 times before that international and hadn't lost by more than a goal, so they're clearly competitive, and they just weren't allowed to be on the night. So I feel for them. I think they've done the right thing, very brave of them to put their thoughts down on paper and say, well, listen, this just is unacceptable. It's sort of like going back to the 1970s sort of style football, and we're just not there. We're a nation that's come on from there, and hopefully this inquiry will get to the root of the problem. But as I said, I suspect the root of the problem might be at the top of the game.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that because I've had chats with the likes of Kevin Fallon and Declan Edge, and these are guys that don't want to come on the show yet, but it's only a matter of time before they have a crack, and they've sort of iterated, and with a lot of other people as well, David, that it comes down to power of the people, doesn't it? And we're not stupid people here in New Zealand, but we've been led. I think people have tried to lead us down that garden path to just accept what they tell us and to go with that. But we're not going to anymore, are we?
Yeah, I think it's hard for some of the sort of the bigger names in the game. You talk to Fallons and the Edges. They have sort of their own vested interest, their coaching, so I suppose they're reticent to come out and talk about that because people will say it's sort of that the grass is greener or a sour grape story. But I can tell you, purely as someone who watches the game for the love of it, what the New Zealand football fraternity saw at Westpac isn't Kiwi football, and it's nowhere near the best we can dish up. We can do better than that.
So where do we go from here, David? Do you think we need a complete clear out, a second of the coach? I mean, if the coach goes, does he also lose his director of coaching role, or what do you think should be the outcome of all this?
Well, I think it needs to be a decent review. I think it has to take in the board. The board select the CEO selects the coaches. So I think everyone has to be open to the scrutiny. And I think it's high time that we did have a bit of a clear out. And I just love to see someone who sort of is knowledgeable about the game locally, knowledge about the New Zealand sporting landscape, because it is a unique sporting landscape that we have. We're always going to have to punch above our weight, but there's no reason to roll over. I think we're more than capable of putting on fighting displays that are a lot more palatable than those we've seen recently.
Well, I've spoken to about 6 people today, and I've mentioned your name, David, because I believe that we need someone running the show in New Zealand who's passionate, who's honest, and when he one day gets a bullet, which normally happens in a sport like this, he's still going to be staying and giving his all for the future of New Zealand footballers. And, one thing I get very frustrated with is that we bring coaches out here, we employ them, and, for example, Anthony Hudson, who's gone over to the Colorado Raptors, and I think who's the Kiwi centre-back? Tim Brown, is it? No, not Tim Brown. Who's the big centre-back for the New Zealand game?
Tommy
Smith.
Tommy Smith.
Got them out of jail, didn't he, last time out?
He scored in injury time. That's the first game they've won since April, apparently. So they're second to bottom in the MSL or MLS, and it's he hasn't done much since he left New Zealand shores, has he, old Hudson?
Yeah, well, I think one of the problems is that we're a small fish in a big pond, and you can get conned by the bright lights and the CVs that others bring from overseas. But to be honest, I do think that it's time that New Zealand football community took control of their own game and started to grow their own, if you like, because in all sports and all codes, New Zealand has a proud sporting history of being competitive to the max, fighting fire with fire, and I think that's exactly what is required here. The first thing they've got to do, though, is they've got to have an open process just to understand what's gone on, to see where they have gone wrong, because there's no doubt they've gone wrong, and if anyone wants to say they haven't, I think they've got their head in the sand.
Yeah, definitely. Elia, we're going to finish up with David in a minute. Anything else you'd like to ask him before he shoots off, mate?
Yeah, well, I just thought the thing about them appointing this independent investigator in the first place seemed a little bit off. I mean, I know that they have to do these things, but, I mean, it seems pretty plain that something needs to be done, but now we're going to have this investigation. How long is the process going to go on for? Some of these people should just really step aside, maybe. And I mean, what do you think about? I mean, maybe even Andy Martin has to go, or maybe I should step back into a different role and get someone else in there who sort of is willing to, call the hard shots. Yeah,
look, the old mirror test is a good one, isn't it? I think everyone needs to look in the mirror and say, have they really done the best they can for the code? And if they have, and this is where we've got to, it's simply not good enough. So on that basis, there does come a time to step aside, but there are failures here, and I think the women particularly have been ill-treated by the code. The code has let them down. 13 players to write a letter and jeopardise their international career is a hard thing to do, but clearly they feel wronged, and they've got to be supported by the code. The code has got to come through and support their players, because without their players, you haven't got a code. So I think I doubt you're going to get people jumping on swords. I think it'll have to be a directive from a governing body, and that's where the board will have to really show some leadership.
Yeah, hopefully they can do it, eh?
Yeah, I hope so, because the game's good, mate. As you see, when we love our football, we see this World Cup going on, and it would have been an ideal time for us to be leveraging that as New Zealand football and celebrating the world game, and we're just not doing it. We're sort of, again, shooting ourselves in the foot.
Well, David, it's good to see a couple of Chelsea players going to the World Cup because you didn't win too much this year. David's a big Chelsea fan, and all of his brothers are. I like to take the mickey out of when I get the chance, and it hasn't been too often lately, has it, Dave? So it's all good. David is also a great Miramar Rangers fan, so all the listeners out there, I'm a Miramar man. David's a Miramar man. All the good people come from that club. Did you ever play there down there, Elia?
No.
There you go. He's Island Bay, mate. But hey, David, just to finish, mate, thanks very much for coming on here today. I hope you're enjoying the World Cup. You obviously will. When's the final? Is it what date's the final?
July the 16th, I think.
July the 16th.
So we've got a little way to run yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Trying to pick the winner might be too hard.
Yep.
But I will enjoy the early mornings, and I try and get 2 games in a day, and then watch the third one on highlights. So that's how it's been running at the moment.
Mate, go and enjoy it, and I'll speak to you soon, David.
Cool, thanks, David.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Well, we've got another song here, people, and this is an oldie, but it's a goodie.
But they still boogie. If you wanna boogie.
boogie night. You remember the time? If you wanna boogie, boogie night. If you wanna boogie, boogie night.
Not bad, mate. Not bad at all. That was, who was that? That was Boogie Nights. Beautiful sounds. Hey, let's get back to the World Cup, mate. That's what we're here for tonight.
Yeah.
All the rest is gone. David Choate, thank you very much. What do you think? Lovely guy, eh?
Yeah, it was good. He's a knowledgeable character.
Yeah, really, really nice guy. I've known him since I was born, pretty much, mate. And he was the chairman down at Miramar Rangers. He played in the same team as me, the first team there, and he used to score goals for fun. He played for New Zealand for a couple of games.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah.
Wicked left foot. Really unbelievable left foot.
Oh, good. A lefty.
Yeah.
It's always good to meet another lefty.
And he's also great in the air as well. He used to get good hang time, float like a bird, mate, and just bang him in the back.
You know, I was telling you the other week, remember about when years ago when I was playing for Island Bay first team and I had to mark Mick Waite. He was good in the air, mate.
He's ridiculous.
He was about
mate.
a foot taller than me, and I had
Yeah.
to mark him, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!"
And he's
What
a
am I-
big
he
unit
got
too,
two-
eh?
I think he got two goals in that game, two headers.
Yeah, Mick's huge,
Yeah,
mate.
yeah,
I used
yeah.
to hate it. Played against
I
him.
was 18 years old, mate, and he was like a giant. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah. He was huge. He played for Notts County over in the UK, and then he came out here. And I remember when he first came out, I saw him playing, and then he got quite large, Mick. You know, became a big unit, and then he lost a lot of weight again, and he used to wear these little shorts.
he ended
on.
up coaching at Island Bay for a couple of seasons,
Yeah,
a
he
little
coached-
while back. It sort of went off the boil a bit near the end, though.
He coached the All Whites as well when I was there, mate.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
was
well,
good.
a few years back. Eh?
He got
yeah,
shafted at the Confederations Cup by the management. Shock horror. NZ football again there for you, mate.
Yeah.
Hey, K. Okay, let's go. Croatia 2, Nigeria 0. I thought Nigeria was going to get up for that game, but Croatia's good, aren't they?
Oh, Nigeria are a good side, and they
Yep.
proved it in the next game, didn't they?
Yep.
But yeah, the Croats have always been, a quality side, and they've sort of maybe haven't played that well at tournaments, and everyone's thought they're going to since that '98 tournament where they made the semi-final. I won a bet on them in that '98 tournament. I had them to beat Germany in
it
the
Okocha and all those guys?
quarterfinal. No, Croatia.
No, it was that Okocha and all those guys in the Nigerian team. JJ Okocha. He was
Oh
playing,
no, I'm
wasn't he?
talking about Croatia, man.
Oh, I thought you were talking like. I thought you were talking about Nigeria. Sorry.
No,
Okay,
Nigeria.
I'll take that back. Sorry. mate.
No, the Croats did well with Davor Shuka, and
Yeah,
they had a really good
quality,
side back in
yeah.
that '98, and they had Prozanicki and
Yep.
Boban.
Yep.
So
So Boban at AC Milan, wasn't he?
he was for years,
That's right,
yeah.
yeah,
He was
yeah.
sort of revered there, but no, they're back. I mean, and again, they hammered Argentina 3-0, man. I mean, that was a game where everyone was expecting Argentina to pull themselves together, and they just got
Yeah.
taken apart. Really, I mean, they just weren't up to it again.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening with Argentina. It's like they haven't. I mean, they made the final of the last World Cup, didn't
Yeah,
they?
they lost
and they
to
played quite
1-0.
well, but and they probably should have won that final even if Higuain had scored early because they went to extra time and lost 1-0 in extra
1-0
time.
golden
didn't
goal. Yep.
they? Yeah. What's his name? He's not even in the team.
Kotze, what it wasn't it?
Goetze.
Goetze, yeah.
Or how do you say his name? Yeah.
G-O-T-Z-E, isn't
He's
it?
not even in the squad this time, is he?
Oh,
I don't think he is.
he's still at Bayern Munich, though, isn't he?
No, I think he's gone back to. Maybe he's gone back to Dortmund.
Oh, he might have actually.
Yeah, possibly. But no, the Croats are definitely looking good. I don't like the whole dark horse thing. I think they're sort of a horse that everyone can see, and they're sort
They're
of.
like Belgium, aren't they?
Yeah, it's like people calling Belgium a dark horse. It's like, I don't know if they're a dark horse. They've got all the players, and it's just a case of them,
The whole team
doing
plays
it,
in the
you know.
Premier League sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
It's like,
Martinez is probably the one thing that people are a little bit unsure about because
Yeah.
he did so well at Everton for a while and then it all just went to custard, didn't it? And defensively, he's always been called. People have sort of thought, is Martinez up to organising a team defensively, you know, and that in a tournament like the World Cup, it does come down to defence.
When did he take the reins? How long ago was
with
it?
Belgium?
Yeah,
I think it was a couple of years back.
2016
It
possibly.
was it was a wee while ago now. I think, or maybe he was manager when they were at the Euro. Yeah, you know, he's been in there for a few years now. He went there. I think he might have gone there from the Everton job, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because they got rid of their coach. It was a Belgian. Who was it? He was quite well known, but he just wasn't. That team is serious quality in that team, and just.
Mate, it'd be a hard team to coach, wouldn't it, with all those superstars, yeah?
Well, yeah, you'd need to be a good man manager, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can't imagine someone like Grant Turner getting up there and coaching a team like that. I was talking to Grant Turner earlier today.
You're having him on.
And we're going to get him on the show, and he goes to me, I'm not the most, well, basically what he's trying to say, he's not the most PC, so I said, it's okay, we'll give you a chat in a couple of weeks after the World Cup's come down.
Well, Nigeria were... what was their result? Again, I can't recall.
Well, Nigeria won 2-0.
Their last game. Yeah.
So they beat someone 2-0.
Yeah, no, Moses set up
Nigeria
a
beat
good goal.
Iceland 2-0, mate.
Or was it 2-1 or 2-0?
2-0 they beat Iceland. And that's a huge result. The reason, I mean, and I asked you this last week, or maybe the week before, and we had a chat about it, and I said to you how I love the Icelandic, and you were giving them a serve, weren't you? No,
not a fan of Iceland.
And that's okay, mate. You're allowed to dislike one team.
The one player I like is Sigurdsson, and he missed a penalty in that game.
Yeah.
And he, but the game was already gone, I think. They were 2-0 down at the time. I mean, it wasn't gone. It was 10 minutes to go, I think. And if he had scored it, it might have set up a grand finale. But, yeah, the Nigerians are a quality side, and they played really well, actually, I thought. I saw that Obi Mikel did something to his arm. I forgot to keep an eye on what he'd done. It looked like he'd done a fracture or something, the way he was holding his arm. It looked quite serious.
Right. I haven't seen it.
Maybe it wasn't. I haven't heard anything in the news about his injury.
Well, I always think that the Iceland team are going to struggle against big lads. Like the Northern Africans are going to struggle against because they're physically as tough. You know, not.
Yeah, they're the
Iceland,
same. Yeah, they're the same sort of size and the same strength. So, and then it comes down to technical prowess, and the Nigerians are
going to be quicker.
Oh, they're skilled. They're skilled and fast, mate.
Big time.
They're excellent. One guy that I really like with Nigeria is Moses. I think he's one of those guys who has done so well. Like he came from, remember when he was at Wigan, I think, or he was somewhere, and I think it might have been Wigan before they got relegated.
Yeah,
he was their one standout player, and he was amazing there. And then he got signed by Chelsea, and everyone was like, "Oh, Moses won't do well at Chelsea," you know. And it sort of looked like that for a while, and then he came into form there, and he did really well, and they won the league. He was a big part of that team with Mourinho that won the title. And he's just a really good example, I think, for young players out there of a player who makes the step up to a big club and follows through. Because you get so many of these guys who have an amazing season for a smaller club, and then they go to a big club and they can't make the step up.
Yeah.
But he's delivered, and he continues to, because he was one of the. I thought he had a great game against Iceland.
Good player.
Yeah.
Well, next one down on the list was Mexico beat Germany 1-0, didn't they? And that was last week, and then they've obviously played again since then. Brazil drew with Switzerland 1-1. What do you think of that game? Brazil 1, Switzerland 1.
I'm sure. Didn't we talk about this game last week?
Did we get it in last week or not?
I think we did. Yeah.
Did we? Okay. Well, because I'm just going down from last Monday. Oh, so we're Monday. Yeah. So then Belgium beat Panama 3-0.
Yeah, the Belgians look good there.
Tunisia. England beat Tunisia 2-1.
Yeah, Harry Kane got the header right at the end.
That's right. Did we have that in last week's show? I thought it was next Tuesday.
No, I don't think we had that one.
No. So that was a good start for England to that was the last minute of the game, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, Tunisia, so that penalty they got was ridiculous as far as, I mean, if you're going to give a penalty for that, the guy, Kyle Walker, maybe he's guilty of having his elbow up, but I mean, the guy fell down like he was poleaxed, and it was and then Kane and some of the others were getting literally thrown to the ground every corner, and he's not giving penalties for that.
Exactly.
And there was a lot of talk afterwards saying that the referee was Colombian, and they were saying, well, he's trying to make sure that the Colombians don't meet England or something, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty cynical, and you'd like to think that referees aren't like that, but
Mate, I'll tell you what.
Some of that refereeing in that game was pretty shocking, man. And the Tunisians got away with a bit there. They sort of,
We played Colombia in the Confederations Cup in 2003, and 2003 in France, in Lyon. And we 1-0 up at half-time. Ref scored a goal.
Yeah.
Thunderbolt from 35 yards, And when the change room at half-time, and one of the guys said, "Oh, Shivers, we'll probably get nothing from the ref this half." And one of the guys said, "Oh, why is that?" And I turned around and looked at him and I said, who would you rather disappoint, New Zealand or Colombia?
Yeah.
You probably would rather be on the offside with the New Zealanders, wouldn't you? Because you wouldn't be going home, with any of the Colombians after you, that's for sure, mate. So, so we lost 3-1, so everything was, normality was resolved, and everyone could sleep at night. Hey, so moving along, Poland have gone home now, haven't they? They lost to Senegal their first game.
Yeah.
And then they've lost a game, mate, which is...
They got hammered by Colombia 3-0. Poland, big disappointment for the Poles. Like I think they did quite well in qualifying, but they were using different formations, and then he's gone to 3 at the back in this game against Colombia, and then the Colombians have just been too good. They had Rodriguez come back. He had a calf, worry about a calf, and then they were worried about whether they were going to play Quintero. The guy, he plays in Brazil at the moment on loan from Spain. I think he is his parent club, one of the Spanish teams. But both of them worked together, and they played well.
Was Falcao there as well?
Falcao scored, he got a nice goal with the outside of his right. Really nice pass.
He's pretty old now, isn't he?
I don't know if he's that old, Falcao. He's probably 30 maybe.
I read an article about him the other day, and he's actually been...
He's been around a few years, definitely.
But he's been really, he didn't play a lot of the qualifiers, he didn't play a lot of the games for his club, Monaco.
He played, I'm pretty sure he had a pretty good season for Monaco this year, and the season before.
I read an article the other day, and they left him out in a lot of games just to get him right for this World Cup.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, well, the last World Cup, he was. They made him play, and he shouldn't have played.
He shouldn't have played, that's right.
And then that almost ruined his career, because he went to United and then he went to Chelsea, and he wasn't quite there physically, and it was a real shame.
$5 million a week.
Well, it was a shame though, because a lot of people sort of got an impression of Falcao that he wasn't that good, and this is. Now he's come back. He's got this nice goal today, and he's got a point to prove. And Colombia definitely had a point to prove after that first game. But
good on him.
They lost to Japan, didn't they? 2-1.
Yeah, good on him. And also, this is going to be his last chance to play in the World Cup, I would have thought. And as you said, he's taken the bull by the horns, and he's scored a goal. And I wouldn't say he's a gentleman. He's been at Monaco for a long, long time, and he had little stints, as you said, at Manchester United and Chelsea. And I was disappointed that he didn't take off at Man United, because I think he could have been something special. But they do struggle with their strikers, don't they, United? And they seem to have, they prefer a big, tough central striker than a more, I suppose, skillful runner off the ball sort of thing, which is what he sort of brings to the game.
He's 32 now, Falcao.
Okay.
Yeah, but he wasn't physically right when he was at United though, and then even when he was at Chelsea, and he still did all right. It's not like he played that as bad as some. He did okay, but the Colombians definitely had to turn things around. And I read one article today saying that game against Poland was the best they'd played since the last World Cup, which is probably fair. They did so well at the last World Cup. But the Polish were, they weren't quite there. And Lewandowski, he's such a good striker. You got a feel for the guy,
unbelievable player.
Oh yeah, he's definitely one of the top 5 strikers in the world. But he just doesn't have a team that can deliver them enough of the service that he needs to put the ball in the goal.
Hey, game I wanted to talk to you about, so we haven't got too long to go, was our friends from across the ditch, Australia. Denmark won, Australia won. What a great result for the Aussies, and they're still in it, aren't they?
Yeah, well, they did okay, and they actually played really, really well in the second half of that Denmark game, and they were probably unlucky not to pinch it in the end, I thought. But Denmark are a quality side as well, so it was an interesting match. It was a hard one to pick, and then probably the draw was sort of about right in the end. It wasn't like either of those teams really made a sort of statement to say that they deserved to win that game. And yeah, there's still a bit of controversy with the penalty and so on, but I think the Aussies were worth the result there, and they did well enough. I mean, that's Aussies though, isn't it? They always compete and they're competitive, and they and there's a good football culture in Aussie. It's I mean, you've been over there yourself. I lived there for 5 years in Melbourne, and I was amazed by just right down to like grassroots level in Melbourne. It was incredible, like just the amount of clubs there and the amount of players they've got, and the football's it's pumping in Aussie. Yeah, it's going really well.
It's huge.
Yeah. They've got to sort the A-League out, but I mean.
Well, it's all the ethnics playing, isn't it? It's all the ethnics who play their game.
The cool thing with a lot of those clubs over there is that they do have that ethnic sort of factor to it. That I played for an Argentinian club in Melbourne called Melbourne City. That was the original Melbourne City, actually, and they the A-League one came along and just pinched the name and just like, right, we're taking the name.
Oh, really?
And then our club took them to court.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not sure what the final result of it was. I think there might have been a payout or something, but in the end, it was decided that both clubs could still be called Melbourne City. But, yeah. So Melbourne City, the Argentinian club I played for, and they're in State League 4, I think. So they're quite a way down.
Where do they play?
I played in a place called Spotswood at Edwards Reserve.
I know.
Yeah, no, it's a great club. Really good mentality. Great people, the Argentinians. I really enjoyed playing there. That was a really nice part of over the years I've played. And then, but yeah, there was a club down the road. There was a Maltese club.
What club was that? Preston.
Altona North.
Yeah. So I used to
Preston weren't too far away. And then there was there's just heaps of these clubs,
Yeah.
And then there's and that whole thing with the clubs. A lot of them don't identify with the A-League teams.
Yeah,
they just don't, and they won't. And, it's like, and the A-League teams have tried to go, all right, you got to support us. And then you get these factions, and they're like, well, we hate them, we're not cheering for you guys with them.
Yeah, exactly.
We'd rather beat them up, and that's what they do, mate. They're crazy.
Oh, they are crazy. I mean, I've been to Melbourne games in Melbourne State League where they're firing flares across the pitch.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant.
They sneak them in the night before the game and stuff.
Well, it used to, a few years ago, it used to be pretty bad, man, and they'd actually have pitch battles and all sorts to carry on, and people carrying bloody knives and baseball bats and guns and
football in Australia, mate. We had that carry on in New Zealand, mate. Hey, couple more results before we go, mate. So we're going to call it a night. Belgium, for me, is the team to talk about.
Well, the interesting game that's coming up is Belgium-England, because both teams are on 8 goals for 2 against.
Yep.
They're both on 6 points. What are they going to do? Like, do they want to go first qualified? Do they want to go second qualifier? They've got to rest players. They've got the second round coming up.
We haven't looked at who they're going to play against the next round, have they?
Well, I think it might be from the Japan group, which is who's in that group? Japan, Senegal, Colombia, and Japan, Senegal,
Nigeria?
Colombia. No. Japan, Senegal, Colombia, and and some team that's not going to make it. I can't remember who it is.
Yeah.
Who's got 0? Poland.
Japan, Senegal, Poland, that's right.
So, potentially I think their opponents are one of those teams. But yeah, it's a funny one. I mean, Martinez reckons he's going to rest players. I mean, and Southgate will probably have to rest players as well, because you can't just play the same team the whole World Cup. Like, you've got to... So that'll be an interesting game to see how it pans out and who wants to win, or whether they play for the draw. I mean, it's like, how's it going to pan out there? But, I mean, they can't play for the ball draw because one of them needs to win on goal difference,
Exactly.
And they're on identical goal difference.
Exactly. So we need to... It just depends, I think, on who's going to... And if they've got... Who they've got. Imagine if it's a Portugal-Spain group. You're not sure. Who do you want to play out of that? Who knows?
But... what are the games tonight?
Tonight I think we've got Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Uruguay against Russia.
Oh, that's a big game.
Yeah,
that's one that the Uruguayans probably want to win.
Yeah, and I reckon the Russians will win it, mate.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
but
I suppose the Russians are sort of riding that sort of wave of being the World Cup hosts, and the countries behind them.
Yep.
Putin's behind them.
Iran, Iran, Portugal, and Spain, Morocco, mate. Look, that's all we've got time for tonight anyway, mate. But I mean, hey, it's been another good showing. Good show. Thanks for coming in again, my friend.
Yeah, no, it was good.
Anything you want to say to the people out there before you leave for another week?
No, not really.
Enjoy football, I suppose.
Yeah, enjoy the football over the next week, and
We'll
have a good week at work. Look after your family.
And we'll be speaking to them next Monday night, same time.
Yeah, ring up your parents, tell them that you love them if
Good.
they're around, or send a prayer up to heaven.
Good on you, mate.
Yeah.
Speak to you next week, and you have a good week.
Cool, man.
Cheers,
You
mate.
too.
A little bit